We are the official state spirit of the Commonwealth of Virginia. If you want to try a whiskey that is made truly handmade with methods that don't exist anywhere else, these early methods, this is the place. We have the water-powered grist mill right over here next to the distillery. So that's a reconstruction of a mill Washington built and opened in 1771 to grind grain. So that would have ground corn, but also wheat for export flour. And then of course the whiskey distillery behind us, which he made whiskey and brandy in. This is a reconstruction that recreates what he had in the late 1790s. The main whiskey we produce is rye whiskey, which means it's predominantly rye grain. It has about 60% rye, about 30 to 35% corn, and the rest is malted barley. And that's the original recipe or mash bill that was being made here in the late 1790s. And we found that in our records here at Mount Vernon. A few years ago, we made bourbon, which is now aging in barrels. We have made rum, which we did retail. And there's a couple other things we'll do down the road. It's made with 18th century methods. So it starts in the water mill where we grind the grain on millstones that are powered by a water wheel. The grain is brought next door and we row mash, which is the cooking of the grains, through the methods used in the 1790s. So water is bucketed from a boiler that's very hot. We row with a mash rake to stir and mix those grains. And they're all cooked in 120-gallon wooden barrels called mash tubs. And because we're also running wood-fired stills, that's very distinctive. Most modern distilleries have modern equipment, obviously, and they have other heat sources. And when you taste this whiskey, some of our batches do have a hint of smoke in it because there's open fires running in the distillery when we're making it. We run the distillery for whiskey usually 2 to 3 times a year, usually in the off-season when tours aren't ongoing. This site offers tours April through October, and then we go into our off-season time, which gives us the ability to make production runs. The distillery will run anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks a year. We do about 1,100 to 1,200 proof gallons a year, which is very small, but with our main focus being education during the year, this is what we can produce in those off-season months. In the coming years, we're going to release some older whiskeys, which will be really quite fine. And then the other thing we're going to release next year is a cask strength whiskey, which is whatever the proof is when it comes out of the barrel, that's what we'll bottle at. And we also have a double oaked whiskey, which has been secondary aged in other casks. The other thing coming is we made bourbon a few years ago, and that's going to be released probably in 2023. So look for a George Washington bourbon coming down the road.